Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my real life range tests, and this time a review included with a brand new car. What you see behind me, and it's out of focus right now, is the brand new Skoda Enyaq Coupe in RS, guys. So the Skoda Enyaq Coupe, as you probably could already tell, is the coupe version of the already popular Czech electric SUV, but this is available in a number of powertrain choices, and today we are testing the most powerful one, the RS version. So this is the first RS electric car on the market, and we're gonna test out to see how far you can drive it, how it behaves on the road, if it's worthy of the RS badge, and we're also gonna take a closer look at the design and everything in between. So stay tuned because I have a lot of great info for you guys. So this is it. This is the Skoda Enyaq Coupe RS. So as you probably already noticed, there are a couple of important changes done to it compared to a regular Enyaq. First of all, up front you'll notice it has a more aggressive design. The headlamps are the same and they do look beautiful, but it has a more aggressive design over here at the bottom of the front bumper. It's all meant to inspire a more aggressive setup and a more sporty demeanor, if you will. And this backlit front grille comes as standard on all RS models, not all coupe models. So you will see plenty of these on the road. If I like it or not, I'm not yet decided. I have not yet decided. I think it's an interesting take. A lot of manufacturers are doing this. It started with Rolls-Royce, and now we're seeing it on BMWs, Mercedes-Benz, and even Skoda models. But I'm not yet convinced that I like it. It's a mixed bag for me. This color is optional. It's a sort of orange sunburst color. I don't know the exact name. And compared to a regular Enyaq Coupe model, the RS versions are sitting a bit lower to make them a bit more sporty. So the front end is lower by 15 millimeters and the rear end is lower by 10 millimeters. Of course, we also have the RS badging over here, as you can see, and these are the 21-inch optional wheels. Standard, the car comes with 20-inch wheels. The RS versions, the normal coupe models come with 19-inch wheels as standard, and they can go up to 21 inches. And this is where the magic happens, because we have a sloping roofline towards the back. It's something we've seen on a number of models in the business right now. And the platform the Enyaq uses, the MEB platform, actually houses 1, 2, 3 models with a sloping roofline. So we have the Volkswagen ID.5, which is basically a coupe version of the ID.4. We have the Audi Q4 Sportback, which is the coupe version of the Audi Q4, and we have the Skoda Enyaq Coupe. And I think the Skoda looks best out of all of them, both in coupe and normal, guys. I think it looks absolutely brilliant, and I think the Czech company did a great job. We have LED lighting for the tail lamps over here, blacked out naming patterns over here. So we have the Skoda brand in big lettering with tons of space in between the letters, and we have the Enyaq nameplate and the IV badge, which tells you this is an electric car, in case you didn't know. And in typical style for all RS models, we have a reflector on the bottom part of the bumper that's meant to warn people around you that you're driving fast. So let's open the boot. Normally on internal combustion engine cars, when we're talking about a coupe model compared to a normal model, you have to make some sacrifices in terms of boot space. Well, it's not the case over here. The Enyaq has exactly the same space in the boot compared to its regular brother. The coupe version has the exact same space. It's basically 585 liters. I couldn't believe it when I read the specs, but it is true. And on the ID.5, for example, you have even more room in the boot compared to the ID.4, which is quite odd. It's hard to believe. Of course, the differences aren't all that huge. As a matter of fact, this car has a more aerodynamic profile compared to the regular Enyaq, and that gives it a slightly better range. The difference is incredibly small, so we're talking about 5 to 10 kilometers in the WLTP testing cycle. This one has an estimated range of 505 kilometers, while the normal Enyaq goes to up to 495, something like that. So it's a really small difference, and we're gonna test out just how much this car consumes, how much energy it needs to get around town, on the highway, and so on. As for the specs, since this is the RS model, we have 2 electric motors, one on the front axle, one on the rear axle. Together they can deliver up to 299 horsepower and 460 Newton meters of torque. And again, since this is an RS model, it has a battery in the floor that's good for 77 usable kilowatt hours. The total battery capacity is 82 kilowatt hours. And you can recharge it at up to 170 kilowatts at a fast charger. So let's take a look at the interior for a bit. It's a very nicely spec'd car we're looking at over here. We have privacy shades over here and carbon fiber trims. And let's take a look at the space offered, because normally coupe models do take away some of the headroom in the back. Let's take a look. I actually fit. Well, I do touch the roof slightly with my head, but I am a bit over the average consumer, if you will. I am 6 feet tall and about 250 pounds, but I do have a lot of knee room over here, and the driver's seat has been adjusted to my comfortable driving position. The materials are of decent quality. This is a bit of a scratchy plastic, but from what I read, this is a vegan leather, so it's artificial leather, if you will, and the whole purpose of this car was to make it as eco-friendly as possible. So the material used for the upholstery, for example, is partially made from recycled plastics and so on. We have storage spaces over here, a very interesting storage space over here. So basically, even though we don't have a transmission tunnel, we do have this storage space over here, which does take away some of the leg room for the rear passengers. As you can see over here, you can store a phone in the back pocket and a lot of other stuff. These are the RS models, so mind you, these don't come as standard on any Enyaq Coupe models. I will show them to you once we get up front, and we do get this huge panoramic sunroof as standard. But today is a rather hot day, and I'm already starting to see some cracks in the claims from Skoda that it has been treated and it should protect you from powerful sunlight. It's pretty hot inside. The materials used on the front door cards are a bit better. That's how it feels to the touch. It's still plastic, but it's a bit more friendly. The same materials are used on the center section, and these are the RS seats. They look pretty nice, and they do offer a lot of side support. So yeah, no complaints here. We also have a massaging function on it, and of course, memory buttons. Let's hop in the front. And only the RS version gets this steering wheel with a flat bottom and the RS badging. The steering wheel actually feels really nice, and I love the fact that we have normal buttons on the steering wheel, not touch sensitive stuff like we see on Volkswagen products. Other than that, not a lot has changed on board. We still have fake leather on the dashboard, but it feels really nice to the touch, and soft touch plastic over there. And of course, the 13-inch screen over here for the infotainment system that works pretty well. Now, if you followed my channel before, you know that what we're gonna do is usually we're driving this car around town and on the highway and so on to do the real life range test. Unfortunately, I already did the inner city section, and I'm going to show you the results right now. So as you can see, I covered 122 kilometers in about 5 hours with an average speed of 25 kilometers an hour, and the average energy consumption was 19.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers covered, so 20 kilowatt hours. That means you should be able to cover about 250 kilometers around town. Yeah, but I did have to use the AC and the traffic was hectic, so that's that. What we're gonna do now is hop on a series of B-roads to see how this car handles those, and then hop on the highway to see what kind of energy consumption figures we get over there, and then we're gonna drive this car and draw some conclusions about it. Let's go. Okay guys, now what we're gonna do is hop on the highway, drive this car at 120 kilometers an hour, and see what kind of results we get over there, and we're gonna do a final update after we're done. Okay guys, so I just pulled off the highway after I drove this car at 130 kilometers an hour, but I hit some construction work, and you're gonna see exactly what kind of numbers I got. And let's take a look and try and figure out what kind of range this car offers. So I covered 58 kilometers in about half an hour. The average speed keeps dropping, but when I pulled off the highway it was 126 kilometers an hour. But the energy consumption remained the same, so 22.6 in these conditions. Considering the battery has a usable capacity of about 77 kilowatt hours, you should be able to cover about 340 kilometers with a full charge. So quite decent numbers, not hugely different compared to a regular Enyaq, but quite okay overall. Now stay tuned, because we're gonna talk about this car in depth in a few minutes to tell you about the driving experience and what I noticed about it in the last few days. Okay, so now that we hopped behind the wheel of the Skoda Enyaq Coupe RS EV, whatever you want to call it, it has a pretty long name. So the full name should be Skoda Enyaq Coupe RSIV, right? So quite a long name. Let's talk about the way it drives and technical specs. As I already mentioned, it's built on the same platform as the ID4, ID5 and so on, the MEB platform. It has 299 horsepower and 460 Newton meters of torque, split between two motors, one on each axle, and it should do 100 kilometers an hour from standstill in 6.5 seconds, and it has a top speed of 160 kilometers an hour. So just around the same performance you would expect from any other car with the same specs on this platform. However, what makes this car different though is the suspension, and I think Skoda did a great job at creating this suspension for the Enyaq. I've praised it on a number of reviews in normal guys and in RS guys right now. It is simply put beautiful. This car has the adaptive suspension, and to be honest, I think this should be a must-have option on any Enyaq model you want to buy, because it completely changes the way the car behaves. It is incredibly comfortable, even though we have the RS badge on it. Of course, if you want to switch to the sport mode instead of comfort mode, you will get a stiffer suspension, but don't expect this car to be a canyon curver, because it's not. It's not a sporty car. It's not, at least not in the sense of the Skoda Octavia RS. Yeah, that's something you need to keep in mind if you're buying this car hoping that you will, I don't know, break some land speed record. However, it is a tail-happy car. So on top of the fact that this is the first electric RS model, it's also the first one that I managed to get, in which I managed to get the rear end, I don't know, should I say drifting? I managed to get the tail out in a couple of bends, and it's quite an interesting feeling. But once again, don't expect this car to be a drift machine. It's just a more fun than normal Enyaq, if you will. Nothing too fancy, nothing incredible. So it will do 100 kilometers an hour in 6.5 seconds, and that's not necessarily neck-breaking, not compared to most of its rivals in this segment. But for an Enyaq, it is quite an achievement. So I'm not really kosher with the whole RS badging on this car, because it doesn't really live up to the expectations. Sure, it's a fun, quite agile car around town, for example, and even at higher speeds you will do some serious overtaking with it up to highway speeds without any issue, but it's not exactly a Nürburgring record breaker as it happened with other cars wearing this badge in the past. Around town though, just like I did there, it will help out because you have instant torque and you can squeeze into tight spaces on the fly. But you do have to be careful about it because this is quite a big car. So if you want to drive it in a sporty fashion, expect some roll, some pitch. Not a lot, but you will feel it occasionally because this is also a quite heavy car, 2.4 tons, empty. So add a few people inside and you'll notice exactly what I'm talking about. But overall, I did enjoy my time with it. I think it's a very refined car. We have double glazed windows on all sides, and the windshield is also double glazed. So it's quite a performer. It's a good looking car. It's so quiet inside, even at higher speeds. It's impressive. Skoda inches closer to premium manufacturers with each new model, and I'm really glad to see that happening, because it's a really small manufacturer from the Czech Republic. It doesn't have the resources other manufacturers do, but of course it always helps to be under the umbrella of a huge group like the Volkswagen Group. So overall, I did enjoy my experience with the car, but I would like to know if you guys agree. We already talked about the energy consumption, the range, and so on, so I'm not going to go into them again. Tell me if you would buy this car or if you would go for one of its rivals, namely the Volkswagen ID.5 GTX, the ID.4 GTX could be considered a rival. The Ford Mustang Mach-E is definitely a rival for this car, and of course the Tesla Model Y. But the Tesla Model Y isn't exactly a rival because it's not a coupe model. I don't know. If you want to include it in this listing, of course, include it. But what I can say about the Model Y after I've driven it is that it doesn't really come close to this car in terms of comfort and the ride, the suspension overall, which in the Tesla felt noisy and way too stiff, and in this car is perfectly balanced between comfort and sportiness if you wanted to. So please let me know in the comment section which of these cars gets your vote, and if you enjoyed this video, if you found it useful in the slightest, please don't be shy and hit me with a like, a share, and maybe a subscribe to keep this channel alive. Until next time, ciao.